Lover. I had been performing in drag in Fort Lauderdale for about a year and a half, 2 at the most. Rather, I don't know if I was well known or not.
Okay. So did you know Tiffany Aragus and Dana Manchester and Nikki Adams? Did you know them?
Yes, I did.
Because those are women I grew up with,
Yeah.
and a lot more. Belle Kincaid and Maxine
Oh,
Allen, Letitia
yeah.
Ron, all those girls from the Copa. You remember
Oh,
the
yeah.
Copa?
Yes,
So
I do.
um,
Vividly.
yes.
A
Now
lot of time spent there.
now you say you published 3 novels. What are they about?
Three different books. The first is In God's Silence. It's a creative nonfiction story about the treatment of homosexuals during World War II.
Okay.
All true stories that were gathered and compiled and then added and expanded to make a story with a cast of characters. And then the names of the characters came from registries with the National Holocaust Memorial. So
Okay.
somebody's first name, somebody else's last name, all but one, which is the
Okay.
mother, which is my great great grandmother's first name. And it was my honors project when I graduated with my bachelor's degree. The second one, and I have them right here,
Okay.
the second one is a collection of short stories and essays and poetry that I wrote while I was in college
Okay.
that I published. The third one, which was the hardest to write, is my own memoirs. Freeing myself one man's journey with AIDS, because I'm a 29 year survivor this year with actually next week, 29 years living with AIDS, full blown AIDS.
You
And I
know,
decided when I
amazing.
decided when I decided to write my memoirs, I decided to be brutally honest about everything. And if people didn't like what they were reading, I felt they could skip to the next paragraph.
Okay. Were the first two books fiction or real?
The first one was creative nonfiction, so there
Okay.
is a fair amount of truth to the story, but there are some minor elements that were expanded, not a
Okay.
lot. And locations, some of the names were made up of like bars and streets, and there was a lot of research, and some of the bars are real and some of the streets are real, but some of them are not.
Mhm.
All
You
of the
know,
names,
I'm. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
uh, all of the names are real as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so there's very little that's made up. The
Okay.
second one was just it's all made up because it's
Okay.
stories that I felt needed to be told, and then all of the stories and all of the essays and all of the poetry in the second one are from a gay point of view.
Mm-hmm.
The third one is all true because it's all my life. From the
Okay.
time I was a little boy until I wrote it for my master's degree in creative writing, and that was 5 years ago, so 2010. And the
Mm-hmm.
story is basically 1985 to about 2002, 2003, and that's where the story stops.
Okay.
That's the thrust of the story.
Okay. Now, were any of the books made into a movie?
Oh, girl, I wish.
Oh.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Now, it's a great thing that you wrote the last book. The reason that last book caught my attention, the memoirs about you living with AIDS all these years and surviving and doing well. Because generally at 58, most people that would have been diagnosed with AIDS would have already passed on.
Oh yeah,
And
every single person that I was close to that I knew in Fort Lauderdale, except me, is
mhm,
gone. 60
mhm,
people from that time frame that I knew are gone.
mhm.
And between 1985 or 1986, when the first person I knew that died, and 2002, my previous partner, we were together 10 years. He died in 2002 of HIV complications. I counted every single person. And from that time in 85 to 2002, there's 600 names.
Oh, Yeah, it's miraculous that we have survived so long with so many different things that they thought that we wouldn't live to see either a
Oh
vaccine
yeah.
for or a cure for. And technology today is amazing. The internet is another amazing thing that has happened. And the fact that we now can communicate and we can help each other by
Hmm.
communicating. And like I said, this is why I was so glad when you reached out to me about your story, because it's just is something that we can all relate to in some sense. We either know somebody that's HIV positive, or we know somebody that's died from AIDS, or we're living with AIDS, and these kind of things. Now, are you actively involved in the church now?
Uh, yes, recently actually.
Okay.
Um, I left the church
Okay.
in 1988,
Okay.
January, because I was sexually assaulted to the point
Mm-hmm.
that it would be classified as a hate crime. It
Mm-hmm.
was December. Our minister's son invited me over to the house for pizza. His family was on vacation, everyone except him. And the next thing I knew, I was on the floor with a gun pointed at my head, and he was raping me.
Mm.
I ended up leaving that house with three cracked ribs, a broken arm, a fractured leg, and a minor concussion.
Well, what
And
was
I
the?
and a gun pointed to my head the entire
Mhm.
time
Okay.
because he had heard rumors that I was gay.
Oh, okay.
And of course, no one knew anything about anything. I was silent on the whole thing.
Okay.
So I fled. It was a year later. I turned to my mother and I asked where